Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Today, I got a packed show for you. Not really, but hey, it is what it is. Today, I wanted to talk about the effects of screen time on children. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I've been noticing over the last few years, kids are going outside less and less. And the only thing I can attribute that to is, you know, um, people like to say bad parenting. No, I don't think it's really necessarily bad parenting. I think children have so many choices of entertainment today that they kind of get like a sensory overload, if that makes sense. My kids, especially, I'm not a perfect parent. I, I'm what they call a tablet parent. Um, and I know that sounds a bit hypocritical given the title of my life, but hear me out. I want to reduce screen time for, I want to reduce screen time for the kids in my life, which my children and, friends and family. And I also want to reduce screen time for myself. And as I was doing research for this episode, I came across a lot of helpful information when it comes to kids and screen time and the things that can happen due to screen time or too much screen time or very little screen time. And the effects, oddly enough, I ran into a lot of things about the effects of screen time with adults. So I wanted to share that stuff with you while we kind of wait for, some people to pop in here. And the last live I did was my first live, so this is my second, and it's not a perfect product, but we're getting there. We're working on it. The product's gonna keep getting better and better. The show's gonna keep getting better and better. And we have some interviews lined up. We have some things going on that we'd like to just uh, kind of not keep under wraps, I guess, but we got some stuff that we're working on that it's not 100% of a full idea. One of them is kind of setting up the live stream here to do it on. I know I usually do two shows per week, Mondays and Fridays. I'm thinking about doing those shows live, maybe, possibly. But if I do that, then we got to set up some things to where I can get the intro, and different sounds and stuff going so I don't have to pull the live down to edit it and put it back. So, anyway, there's that. And I've got some stuff pulled up here uh, for the show. And one of the things I did was, when I came up with this show idea, I was talking to a family member, and they had discussed. I can't remember what the conversation was about now, but it gave me an idea, and I was like, kids are overstimulated, in my opinion. Kids have too many entertainment options available, and we as parents need to kind of step back away from the kids wanting to just have those screens in front of them all the time. I know a lot of people have their phones. I know a lot of kids have their phones and they're inseparable. But I've noticed, man, a lot of younger people can't talk to other people. Like they talk to each other through screens though. And any entertainment options that they have, it's all through a screen. Social media, when they're texting their friends, it's on a screen. Now they will talk to each other. You get to get into a room with a bunch of children, teenagers, and they will be talking to each other, but not verbally. They'll be talking to each other through a screen, even though they're in the same room. So that's a little discouraging to see, but I wanted to know, why are we like that? Why are kids like that? Why are adults slowly becoming like that? So I did a little bit of research, and it turns out that there's a lot of social interaction that you get live and through conversation that you just can't get through a screen. And I know it's a little hypocritical of me because I'm on a screen right now, going live on YouTube. It is what it is. We're not all perfect, but the main thing is I'm trying. I'm trying to change things in a way to make everyone happier in my house. And that starts with me. And one of the things that would make me happy is if my children were active, if I didn't want them sitting around the house all summer long. So we're trying to come up with things that we can get out of the house and do together. Because I am a stay at home dad, that kind of limits things with the way. So when my wife goes to work, it's really early in the morning, like 7 o'clock in the morning. And so everybody's sleeping at that time, but we'll be getting up around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And then what are we going to do with the rest of our day? It's summertime. You know, I don't want the kids sitting around watching TV all day. I don't want them sitting around and playing video games all day. I don't want them watching YouTube all day. And so it just, for me, I wanted to get the kids out of the house. I wanted to introduce them to new things. Our 5-year-old, I wanted to take him on a bunch of walks and stuff. So we haven't really built out a full schedule of the things that we're going to do to limit screen time, but sort of the starting plan is we're not going to take away screen time completely. I think that's a little rough to do. Now our teenager doesn't have a cell phone. There are some circumstances where, obviously he couldn't handle those type of responsibilities. And so he doesn't have a cell phone. He's 14. And but all of his friends seem to have phones. So I just had him, how we used to do when we were in school, get the phone number of a friend and then you go home on the well, I'm aging myself now. But you go home, you call your friend on the landline and you sit and talk for a few hours on the long cord, or you have a cordless phone. So I shared, hey, how this is how we did things back in the day when I was young. We talked on the phone to each other. That's, if we were far away from each other, we weren't in the same room, we called each other on the telephone and we talked to each other. And we made plans to maybe meet up. And I told him, like, that's how we used to do things back in the day. So he was saying something about, hey, I'm not going to be able to talk to my friends if you take my screen away. And I was like, that's kind of the point. I'm not necessarily taking it away. I'm kind of limiting your time and it's for your own good. And we had to explain, go into big detail on why, it's good for you and why screen time is bad. And I came across a lot of research that basically reinforces my thought on needing to cut down the screen time. And a lot of the issues that my son has focusing, a lot of this, especially focusing, a lot of the issues that my son has socially is can be, now I'm not saying for sure, it can be attributed to screen time. And so I'm going to dig into this a little bit. And what I basically did is I Googled the impact of screen time on child development. And now I'm going to switch my screens here. We're going to put this over here. We're going to put YouTube over here. And I don't even know why I need to really see myself. But anyway, so the National Institutes of Health, they wrote there's an article. It's one of the first things that pops up when you Google the impact of screen time on child development. And the name of the article is Effects of Excessive Screen Time on Child Development, an updated review and strategies for management. Now, this was published June of 2023. So the article is about a year old, but that's all right. I'm not going to read the whole article, but and I maybe edit the description later to kind of give the links on stuff, but it's the National National Center for Biotechnology Information, the NIH. That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, it is so the National Institutes of Health, so NIH.gov, NCBI dot, yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, so we go into this article, and the first thing it talks about is, New technologies such as mobile and interactive screen media are now ingrained in a young child's daily life. Now, we think about that, we want to take that apart, digest it, right? New technologies such as mobile and interactive screen media. What that means is, cell phones and tablets and interactive screen media like video games, stuff like that. So, as those become more prevalent in children's daily lives, I think that we're going to see more and more social effects. And I don't even know if a lot of people realize this, but take some young children, a group of young children, take them out to a restaurant and see if they can order for themselves. That's an issue. A lot of people, a lot of young people can't talk to one another face to face and have those interactions, and it's kind of disheartening. It's sad to see, and hey, we're gonna try to limit the screen time so that doesn't happen in our younger children's lives, and we're gonna try to teach them more, not not conversation, because they're good at conversation. We're gonna try to teach them more social skills, as far as being right in front of somebody, talking to them, and knowing how to talk to them, knowing how to read faces, knowing how to read a room. That's kind of important. And the kids are, and we're not even getting that when we're on too many screens. And I'm going to get into that also. I've got some information here pulled up on the effects of screen time on adults as well. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me, guys. I really appreciate that. All right. So, children today are digital natives, which what that means is they've always had digital screens. Now, my 14-year-old, I've been talking about him and his screen time. He's always had a tablet. He's always had that screen. And I've got a video of him. It's so cute. But hindsight's 2020. We got a video of him when he was about 2 years old, and he was holding one of the first iPhones. Actually, I believe it was an iPhone, just a regular iPhone, just first one. I think they called that iPhone 3G or something like that. Anyway, he was holding it, and you know how you had to swipe to unlock those ones? Well, 2 years old, he had been watching us on his phone, or on our phones, and he had, figured out how to unlock the iPhone on his own without being prompted. So that's what that means, that, children are digital natives. They've grown up in a digital world. My son's whole life, he's had technology all around him. He's had tablets, computers, TVs, and with the advent of streaming services, we could really take our TVs wherever we want, all over the world. And you think about that, you think of it as a convenience, but is it a convenience? Because we're losing out here. I think we're losing out on our ability to speak to one another and interact socially in small groups, let alone big groups. So anyway, children today are digital natives, having been born into an ever-changing digital ecosystem augmented by mobile media. And I absolutely 100% agree with that. Children have grown up in today's world with nothing but multimedia, nothing but screens in front of their faces, screens all over. From when you walk into the airport, nothing but screens. When you walk into the grocery store, now we have somewhat small community style grocery stores here in our neighborhood, but we also have like Walmart and CVS and stuff like that. And you go into those places and you look up, there's screens everywhere. And when you go to order your food at a drive-through, screens everywhere. So our lives are nothing but screen. We've even got screens in our cars now. How I don't think about the safety aspect of that, because a lot of the features aren't available while you're driving. But it's still, we have screens in our cars nowadays. So getting down to the deep area of this article. We'll scroll down to talk about the impact on development. So, screen media use may have both beneficial and detrimental effects on a kid's cognitive results. Media devices with screens have the potential to improve education and learning. For instance, research has suggested that electronic books and learning to read applications may improve young children's early reading skills and creative thinking capabilities. However, studies have also demonstrated the negative effects of screen media use on a number of cognitive areas, such as executive functioning, sensory motor development, and academic outcomes. Media multitasking was found to have a negative impact on executive functioning in teenagers, notably on working memory, inhibition, and the capacity to switch between tasks. So, media multitasking. I I didn't really think about that being as possible 10 years ago. With AT&T, I think AT&T was the first ones to do it. You were able to surf the internet while you're talking on the phone. So you take your phone away from your ear, you put it on speaker, and you can surf the internet. I find myself doing that all the time. But with that media multitasking, you're giving up your attention for one thing or the other. So none of us are very good at multitasking in truth. Some of us may be better than others, but there is no real multitasking. So you can be doing multiple tasks at once, but you're not devoting 100% of yourself to each task. The best way to do that would be to, focus on one task at a time. But with the media multitasking that we abilities that we have today, computers, like my computer right here, I've got a lot of tabs pulled up. I got things running in the background while I'm doing a live video here. So I've got a lot of things going on, and it's very hard to focus my attention on all this stuff and also you guys at the same time. So if you guys watch me here, I'll be talking, about the subject, and then I'll go over here and I'll start reading. I'll lose myself for a minute, and it doesn't take very long to come back, but it's just my focus isn't focused 100% on you, but it's also I'm taking focus and reading the articles and stuff. Like, while that's all part of interaction, the digital landscape, the multimedia landscape that we've built for ourselves today, it makes it difficult to really it makes it difficult to focus. It really does make it difficult to focus. Now, moving on down to language development, the early years of childhood are crucial for acquiring language skills, and children develop various aspects of language, including vocabulary and phonology. So, early on in childhood development, we all know we kind of learn how to talk early on, about 1 to 2 years old, we start vocalizing a lot more. And as we get older, we develop more skills. And the way we develop our language skills, really honestly, by watching and listening combined. So if I'm looking at someone, it's easier for me to be able to tell what they're saying if I'm looking directly at them and can see their facial expressions while they're talking. And that is really good for childhood development. It's really good for kids to be able to watch what you're saying while you're saying it, so they can get a good grasp of how their mouth is supposed to move, so they know where to put their tongue, and so they know what sounds to make while they are moving their mouths. So it's very important that kids be able to look at our face while we're talking. And with screens, are they able to do that? I mean, sure, they can watch people talking on the screens, but it's it's not the same. It's not the same. You don't get that same social benefit. So these skills are acquired through interactions with adults. Numerous studies have highlighted the significance of human interaction, particularly the frequency and quality of exchanges between adults and children in the development stage of language skills. However, there is a growing concern that screen time diminishes the quantity and quality of interactions between children and their parents. I completely agree with that. It's hard these days. It's kind of hard to get our attention away from our phones, right? So even if it's a group of adults, how many of you guys have went out? How many of you guys have went out to a restaurant and you look around and you see there's half the restaurant is on their phones, and so as adults, we're not even giving each other the respect that we deserve by simply putting down our phones and talking to one another. And so as adults, we're losing out on that capability of that social interaction. You see it in all the young adults now. Like I said, they can't order from a restaurant. They can't open their mouths and physically speak to someone. It's and you talk to some kids and it's, oh, I'm nervous. I'm nervous. Hey, I get it. But these are the things that we have to do if we're going to live out in the real world. We have to talk to people. We have to interact with people. And the, part of the reason why is language skills. And when when you're trying to teach a child as young as, a year old, when you're trying to teach them how to talk and teach them how to talk properly, yeah, we can use screens as aids in language development. And that is beneficial to use some aids, but we really want them focused on our face as we're talking to them. And that gives them skills later on in life, like eye contact and things like that. That really helps a conversation move along as well. And so, here's a thing that was pointed out in the article. Adults should be aware of the impact of background television when children are present. Studies have shown that increased exposure to background television can have adverse effects on children's language usage, executive functioning, and cognition in children under the age of 5. Excessive television viewing can also potentially affect language development and reading abilities at a young age. And now I'll take that a step further. I think that excessive television viewing can potentially affect language development in adults as well. Like, how many times have you, like me, I like watching a TV show or something, maybe, if I'm really into it, I start talking like the people. It's kind of weird, but yeah, it happens. And the article goes on to say a few studies show a positive correlation between children's screen time when co-viewed with a parent and their expressive lexical, phonological, and overall language abilities. So I'm taking that to mean you can watch educational shows with your children, and that does have an impact on, like the interaction. Like, let's just say you're watching Cocomelon with the baby, and you're interacting and singing songs and playing with the child. That's gonna translate to social interaction. That's gonna teach them how to talk. That's gonna teach them how to interact with you specifically. And while it's true that screens have become ubiquitous in homes and are increasingly integrated into school systems, it is crucial to educate caregivers of children under the age of 3 years about the potential risks associated with prolonged screen exposure in inappropriate contexts. So, social emotional development. There's also a social emotional development aspect of screen time in younger children. In recent years, the concept of screen time has become more complex with a wide range of electronic devices available worldwide. The advancement of technology in recent years has led to increased screen based technology usage among young people, coinciding with a decrease in their engagement with nature and impacting their mental health and overall well being. I agree with that. Research has shown negative associations between screen time, particularly television viewing, and the development of physical and cognitive abilities. Additionally, screen time has been linked to obesity, sleep problems, depression, and anxiety. How many of you guys out there have some of those issues? I know I do. I struggle. Let's see. I struggle with obesity. I struggle with sleep problems. I struggle with depression, and I struggle with anxiety. So those things on a social emotional development level with kids, you want them to be able to regulate their emotions, and that's sometime it's something that they're finding that's children are struggling with them with more screen time that they have, particularly television when they're younger. And a lot of us want to a lot of us don't mean to do this. We just kind of, hey, yeah, we want a little peace and quiet, so we give the kid a tablet or turn their TV on with a cartoon or something just to get a little bit of sanity. I find myself doing it all day, every day. And so that's why I'm here talking to you guys, because I want to hold myself accountable as well. I'm taking steps now to actively reduce my kids' screen time, and not just one of them. You know, we have two living here at home, and I've had conversations with my teenager, and hey, I tell him, hey, I think we're watching too much TV. I think we have our phones too close to our faces all the time. I think we're playing too many video games, and I think it might be beneficial to just go outside and hang out with one another. And I was outside. Now, I do spend quite a bit of time sitting outside, just kind of reflecting. And I smoke cigarettes, so I smoke his cigarettes outside. And I just kind of watching around the neighborhood and stuff. And oh, thank you. My wife brought me some more coffee. So as I'm kind of just looking around the neighborhood, there's nobody outside. We have a park directly across the street from us. There's nobody outside. You can't hear nobody. I heard birds chirping, dogs barking, cats meowing. I didn't hear any kids. There wasn't any kids. Now, my neighborhood's a little older where I live, within the direct vicinity of my house. But the thing is, like, there are children up the road, and there is a park right across the street. So I was kind of, just taken aback by there's nobody out here. It's a beautiful day. There's nobody outside. And then I hear the laughs and voices of children. And I look across the street, and there's four boys riding their bikes across the park. None of them had any screens with them, and they were outside enjoying the beautiful weather. They were young boys, probably, I don't know, 10, 11, somewhere around there, but they were outside. That's the point. They were outside playing and having fun. And after a few conversations with my loved ones, I realized that, man, we've really got to get outside more. We've really got to go hang out together. If we're not outside, we got to shut these phones off. We got to get out of these screens. We got to shut the TV off. Now, I very rarely watch TV. Like we spend like $100 a month on cable. Oh, well, not cable, it's satellite. But we spend about $100 a month on just that, and we don't even watch it really. It's on, and the news is on, or there's cartoons on. It's just background noise lots of times. Do we really need that? Like, maybe we just play some music in the background instead. I mean, I think that might be helpful in keeping everybody upbeat, get them in a good mood, keep them in a good mood, right? So that's just one of the things that I wanted to touch on. And the article goes on to say computer use and video gaming, but not television viewing, were shown to be connected with more severe depressive symptoms when looking at the effects of various types of screens. Really? So imagine this. Imagine your kid is a gamer. They love gaming. Could it be possibly making them depressed sitting in front of the screen all day playing video games? And I think the severity of anxiety, I think the reason why we see that so much in video games because I know I don't know about your kids, but mine's yelling at each other all the time when they're on the chat. And so it's it is one of those side effects that you probably won't see until it's too late. And I think that's some of what we're dealing with now. Screen time induced poor sleep, nighttime use of digital devices, and dependency on mobile phones have been associated with depressive symptoms. Sleep issues, excessive screen time, and exposure to content that is violent and fast paced trigger dopamine and reward pathways in the brain, all of which have been associated with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder related behavior. Early and persistent exposure to violent content raises the chance of engaging in antisocial behavior. Psychoneurological effects of addictive screen time use include a decrease in social coping skills and development of craving behaviors resembling substance dependence. Structural changes in the brain related to cognitive control and emotional regulation have been observed in individuals with addictive digital media behavior. Wow, that's crazy. So, physical changes are actually happening in the brain. And now we're going through this real time. I didn't read this entire article as I was doing my research. And the biggest reason why is because I kind of wanted to go through this with you guys. I kind of know some of these studies. I've read some of these studies, and I mean, to be quite frank with you, I've watched a lot of in media on the subject, interactive and digital. Um, so it's it's definitely one of those things that you don't pay attention to until it's too late. Um, it, and ladies and gentlemen, I didn't I struggled when I was a kid to stay off the screens. I was in front of the TV all the time. I'm sure a lot of us were. Where the difference was is I spent the most of my formidable years um, outside playing, outside hanging out with my friends. So from the ages of birth to probably I don't know, 10, 11. I was outside all the time. I had friends. I played in the neighborhood. We rode bikes everywhere. And now we don't see our kids really kind of getting out of the house and doing those things. We don't push them to go do these things. And I think the advent, like as people report crimes more often, as people report, as the reporting goes up, period, of different crimes and things happening around your neighborhood, things are starting to change. People aren't sending their kids outside as much. When I was younger, my parents kicked me outside. They were like, "Hey, you are going outside to play while we stay inside and clean up, and then we will come out and join you to play." And when I was really young, that's what was happening. When I was a little bit older, I was kind of left to my own devices. But hey, it was the '90s, right? It was a different time. We didn't have Facebook and all the crime reporting pages. We didn't have we didn't have everybody telling their kids, "Hey, somebody's going to steal you." I don't know. It's always good to have diligence. It's always good to be diligent in situations where your child is outside playing. Just keep an eye on them. As a matter of fact, just go with them, hang out outside with them. They'll love that. Play games with them, play football, run around. For me, I think just sitting out there, the kids really enjoy just my presence. When I'm sitting out there, we're not doing anything. We're just kind of hanging out together. I can see them. They can see me. They're playing and doing their own thing. And if they need to come over and talk, they come over and talk. And we hang out and we have some fun. And like I said, we got a park right across the street. Not everybody's got a park right across the street, but what you can do is there's got to be neighborhood parks. If you live in a rural community, go jump in a creek. That's what I used to do when I was a kid. There's a lot of things that we can do to get out of our screens, especially in a rural setting where you kind of get to do whatever you want in a rural setting. So let's scroll on down here in the article. and I'll read the conclusions. Um, so the conclusion of this article, and again, this article is coming from the National Institutes of Health. And the conclusions is excessive screen media usage in children can have both positive and negative impacts on their development. Regarding cognitive development, screens have the potential to enhance education and learning. However, studies have shown that excessive screen time and media multitasking can negatively affect executive functioning, sensory motor development, and academic incomes. Early screen exposure has been associated with lower cognitive abilities and academic performance in later years. Language development is also affected by screen time as it as it diminishes the quantity and quality of interactions between children and caregivers. Parents play a crucial role in managing and reducing screen time by raising awareness, setting boundaries, and providing behavioral controls. Parental limitations and the absence of screens in the bedrooms have been found to significantly reduce screen usage. So I think that's important to understand. Taking the screens out of the bedroom. I have a screen in my bedroom now, but we don't use it very often. We put it in there because it was an extra television. Now, I don't know how you have an extra television, but we have one, two, three, four TVs in the house. And this is 987 square feet. So just shy of 1,000 square feet house. And we have four televisions in the house. Only one of them's connected to a satellite service, but the rest of them have internet capabilities and streaming services. So my child has a television in his bedroom. My 14-year-old. He watches the television. He watches YouTube. He plays video games on that TV. And what this article is saying is if we take those TVs out of the bedroom, we can significantly reduce screen time, get them out of the rooms. Then that's my biggest trouble is getting my 14-year-old out of his room to come hang out with us adults. And not only hang out with us adults for his sake, but I miss the guy, I miss having him around. When he was younger, he was always up my ass. Now I can't, I don't see him very often. It's kind of messy sometimes, but it is what it is. Uh, but what I'm getting over this article is basically screen time is bad for development with kids. Now, once you get to a certain point, like our son is 14, one of our sons is 14, he's had all of that screen time, his whole 14 years. So there may not be anything that we could do going backwards, but we could sure help going forwards. And we also have a younger child. We have a 5-year-old son who has autism. So it might be beneficial for him to get away from the screens and kind of hang out too. And I looked up some activities. I know what activities we can do, but I looked up some activities we can do here to wean our children off of screen time. Now, the only reason that I looked this up really is to kind of give examples of what you could do at home, not my home, but your home, so that you could kind of get the kids engaged. And I just Googled activities to wean screen time, and the AI for Google pulled up physical activity, independent play, cooking. Now that's neat. That's neat because as we get older, like how many young adults do you guys know that can actually cook a great meal? I don't know very many. I know a few kids a few young adults who think they are good cooks until they have good cooking, and then they're like, "Oh man, what am I doing with my life?" But nobody knows how to cook these days. Young people don't know how to cook, and is that because of screen time? Is it that we teach them, but are they picking up on it because of the screen time? The independent play. We all like that one, right? Go out, play. You know, leave us alone. That's why we give them the screens in the first place, so we could get some peace and quiet. But The independent play is very important for development, early development. It teaches children how to do independent things. Family meals. Now, here's one that we are not very good at. We don't eat meals together. We want to. Uh, we have a couple different reasons why we don't. Um, we have a dining room table, but we don't have as many chairs as we used to because it's an old dining set. And we what we do is we gather the family around. We'll all sit down and have a meal together, and that'll go great for a while. But a couple weeks later, we kind of stop doing that. We kind of stop getting together and having a meal together. And it's a struggle. We do want to eat together. It's not that we don't want to eat together. It's just we are so used to eating in front of the television, grabbing a plate, going to the living room and hanging out in front of the TV for a little bit. We're busy people. So the half hour of, mealtime or whatever, we utilize that to just kind of hang out and decompress, which we should be kind of hanging out, decompressing with each other, conversing with each other. Hey, how was your day? Oh, my day was great. How was your day? And discuss the day's events together. The meal times as a family, that is extremely helpful to bring your family closer together. You have that time, and you don't have to care about how other people's days were, but you find yourself when you do ask, hey, how was your day? You just ask that multiple times in a month and say, hey, how was your day? Do that every day for a month, and then tell me that you're not interested. you know After a month, it becomes repetitive, you're used to it, and then you find yourself genuinely curious. How was your day? Like with my wife, I talk to her, I ask her that every day after work. Hey, how was your day? It's not really that I care how her day was because she's just going to tell me some stuff about her job. I don't really care about her job because I don't work there. It's not, I care about her though. I care about her day. How was your day? And she tells me how her day was. We have that conversation every day. And now I find myself wanting to know, hey, what happened to work today? And I get to know, I don't know everybody that she works with, but I get to know these characters over time as characters because my wife says, oh, we should talk about a coworker. Um, I had an experience with so and so today. It was wonderful. We did this and we did that, and by getting that interaction with my wife, like I said in the very beginning, I didn't care. I didn't really care whether, she had a good day, bad day. I wanted her to have a good day at home, and I wanted to show her that I'm interested in her. So I'd ask her, "Hey, how's your day?" And we talk. And she asked me how my day was. And that usually takes about a half hour or so to go over the day's events with each other. And that is very, very healthy in a relationship. Any relationship doesn't have to be a marriage. If your kids are coming home from school, ask them how their day was. Even if you don't care, just ask them how their day was. And it might help bring you guys closer together. And so I also looked up on Google signs of overstimulation in children. How do I know if my child is overstimulated? Then it outlines babies, toddlers, and preschoolers, other children. In babies, crying usually louder than usual. Usually louder than usual. This is AI that wrote this, and I can tell. Withdrawing from touch, turning their head away, wanting to be held, wanting to nurse more frequently, being fussy or irritable. Toddlers and preschoolers becoming angry or irritable with touching or holding, becoming unreasonably cranky and irritable. Now, I'm seeing that interestingly in my 5-year-old. He doesn't, becoming angry or irritable with touching or holding. It's not that he doesn't want to be held or doesn't want to be touched. Like, I mean, he is 5, he's a big kid. So it's not It's not like we should be holding him. But with touch, like he doesn't like to be touched too much while he's watching TV, and maybe that's a side effect of too much screen time. I'm not entirely sure, but it's one of those things that we might have to be watch out with older children. They may also have tantrums, seem out of sorts, or be able to verbalize feeling overwhelmed. Now, I get overwhelmed all the time. I get what I call sensory overload, and I've also looked sensory overload up. Uh, so other signs of overstimulation in children: appearing limp with glassy eyes. I've not experienced that one. Changing colors and becoming red or splotchy. Not experienced that one. Covering their eyes or face. Well, none of these really seem like we deal with these very often. Yawning or hiccuping excessively, looking uncomfortable, pickiness, trouble going from one thing to another. Now, I do see that quite a bit. So, sensory overload, warning signs: anxiety or feelings of overexcitement, irritability, stress, fear, panic, physical discomfort, restlessness, and inability to relax. A strong urge to block some of the input by removing yourself from the situation or covering your eyes and ears. How many adults go through that? I go through that all the time. That's what overstimulation looks for like for me. I get so overwhelmed. I'm like, I just want to shut everybody out and go away. I want to go to my room and hide and shut everything off. And basically, that's sensory overload. And that happens to me all the time. I wouldn't say daily, but it happens, probably multiple times a week. And causes, we'll go down to causes. Sensory overload can happen to anyone, but it's more common in autistic people and people with ADHD, PTSD, and certain other. Well, there you go. I have, I have ADHD. I don't have PTSD or autism, but those are common causes in sensory overload. But screen time can give us ADHD. I found that. I don't remember where I found it. I was doing some research for this morning, yesterday and the day before. And as I was doing research, I found, and maybe we'll find that here as we go along, I found that oddly enough, screen time can attribute to ADHD. It can attribute to lots of attention disorders, not just ADHD. And so that's one of those things that we are always on the lookout for, is sensory overload. And so how do we know when our child is having experiencing sensory overload? With my 5-year-old, sometimes it's very, very easy to tell. He takes his hands and he cups them over his ears. And like I said, he has autism. So sometimes there's no clear answer on what the sensory overload is because he can't communicate. Sometimes we just need to be taken out of the situation. Would it help if we didn't have screens? It's possible. Um, but I don't know. I'm on a quest though. I'm on a quest to reduce screen time in my children's lives and also my life. I don't want to be stuck in front of a screen all day, every day. What I like to do is here lately, I've been just hanging out outside, just kind of watching the birds and the trees and just kind of enjoying life and coffee. Boy, I love coffee. I love drinking coffee outside in the mornings, enjoying my morning cigarette, watching the neighborhood. And like I said the other day, I was out enjoying the neighborhood and some kids rode their bikes through the park and they were kind of enjoying the day. And I mean, they were over at the park for probably about 10 minutes and they found a wasp's nest, so they left. But they were going to go play. They weren't going back home to enjoy their screens. I'm sure they have screens, you know, but they were outside playing. And I really like that. All right. So moving on here. Activities to wean screen time. We've already looked at that. How do I know if my teenager is overstimulated? Overstimulated, emotional anxiety. Is your teenager showing more anxiety, irritability, stress, fear, or panic, physical discomfort, tensing muscles, arm flapping, behavioral issues, refusing to do something. And now I just simply Googled, how do I know if my teenage child is overstimulated? Behavioral, refusing to do something, hiding or leaving the room, looking uncomfortable, pickiness, trouble going from one thing to another, or becoming more quiet or shy. How many of you guys see your kids out there doing, withdrawing? How many of you see your kids refusing to do their chores? That's a good one. In my house, some of my kids, well, some of my kids, all of my kids at one point or another have refused to do their chores. Or if you don't call them chores, housework, helping up, clean up. We have had issues. Now we have three boys, and all three of them have difficulty staying clean and picking up things and staying on task. We all have difficulty staying on task. I've got really bad ADHD, and it's kind of present when you're watching the live stream here. When you're watching any of my podcasts, really, my ADHD is really present sometimes because I'll bounce back and forth between topics. Now, I've stayed on topic pretty well here today, but I've got a screen right here in front of me helping me stay on task. And I've also been wanting to talk about this. I've also, I've been planning this show out for a couple weeks, not really planning it, but wanting to talk to you guys about screen time and limiting screen time, because I did not like I'm a bit hypocritical about it, because I do manage my children sometimes with the use of screens, and I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's very healthy for them. I don't think it's very healthy for me. I need to step back away from these screens as well. So that's basically bottom line what I'm doing here. I'm telling you guys about it. And I don't know how many other people out there deal with the same issues that we deal with. I see a lot of kids out there that can't get away from their phones. They can't get away from their TVs, and they can't get away from the video games. And I prefer, to have children or have adults that can talk to one another, because I think that's where it's going. People don't talk to each other, and that's because we have screens in front of us all the time. We need to remove that for all of us. Not altogether. We don't have to remove screens altogether. Like, I'm sitting here talking to you guys on YouTube Live. Obviously, I'm not going to remove my screens altogether, because this is what I do. And it's it is it's a strange thing that, we find ourselves in a situation where we're doing these things, but we don't want to do these things, or we're cognitive. We are aware that we are doing these things as we're doing them, and we often feel these guilty feelings. And what we do is in turn, we think about these things, but we don't actively do anything about them. We'll hand them the tablet anyway. We'll hand them the phone anyway. We will gift them the brand new video game system for Christmas anyway, even though we know, hey, this probably isn't the best decision for my child. We do that anyway. And hey, good morning, Will. Thanks for coming and chatting. It's been a long one here. I've been live for about almost an hour now. I'm talking about the effects of screen time with children, and how I'm one of those kind of tablet dads, if you will. I manage my children's attention sometimes with screens, and I didn't really necessarily know how bad that was until I started dealing with some of the side effects from that. What we were experiencing with our 5-year-old is he's very happy-go-lucky all the time, but the more he gets into these screens, the more he's withdrawing, and so I kinda wanna end that, but more importantly, I wanna teach my teenager how to talk to people. I'm noticing a lot of people, young people in particular, they're not talking to one another. And if they are talking to one another, it's through a screen. And I've noticed going out to restaurants, especially going out to like a fast food restaurant, my kids can't order. Like, and it's not just one or two, it's like it's three of them that can't order their own food. You ask them, hey, what's the deal? "Oh, I'm just too nervous. I'm just too nervous. Why? They're just a person. That person's younger than you are, probably. That's what I say. And they're like, oh, I just can't. I just can't. And so, do we place their order for them or let them starve? Because I don't. I think we should force ourselves into difficult situations just to handle it. Just to see if we can handle it. And if we get that sensory overload, we can always back out of the situation. We can always move on. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to talk to each other. We're going to have to deal with each other. Like, for instance, if you have a plumbing issue at your house, are you going to text the plumber while he's standing in front of you? Or are you going to have that conversation that, he's about to charge you, $1,000 to fix something? And that's the bottom line. I think the reason why I get so irritated by screen time and the lack of attention is because I know eventually these kids are going to have to talk to other people. I've got an adult child who doesn't like to make their own doctor's appointments. They It's not that they don't like to make them, it's that they can't talk to people. So they end up either A, not going to the appointment due to fear or nervousness because they've never had to talk to anyone before on their own, or they do talk and they don't say what they mean or mean what they say. And I see that all the time, not with just my own kids, but with other kids as well. They'll say things and not understand what they're saying, or they will say things and not mean them. Um, and so that's one of those things that I always say. Uh, I actually learned this from my wife. Say what you mean what you say. And if you do that kind of stuff, I think I think a lot of lack of communication comes with not lack of communication, but communicating improperly, if that makes sense. So, moving on to some of the other things that adult sensory overload. Now that's one thing that I wanted to kind of speak on because I didn't really look at this stuff. I didn't really pay attention to any of this stuff in adults until I was researching for reducing screen time for children. And I realized I was a hypocrite. And so I can't be talking to you guys about screen time and the effects of screen time on children, like without admitting, hey, I'm one of those parents that's handing the tablet to the kid to give them something to do so I can do my own thing, which 9 times out of 10 is so I can be on my phone, right? And I realized how hypocritical I was sounding. And so I wanted to share with you guys how hypocritical I was sounding to myself. So do you guys could help me stay accountable, if you will? I'm gonna keep you updated on how this is going with the. I'm not gonna remove screens completely. Obviously, I'm on a screen right now, and it's what I do. So, what I would like to do is just kind of give you guys an update on how the summer's going, and just kind of end it at the end of summer and let you know how it went. Every couple weeks, I'll give you an update. Like this. This isn't the last live I'm going to do. I'm actually kind of enjoying myself here. We might play around with the times of the live. It kind of depends. I might try to do it in the evening. That sounds kind of cool to try to do it in the evening. I love coffee, and the show is Coffee with Bearded Bad Dad. However, I also like drinking coffee in the evening. But with my schedule being the way it is and being summertime, like right now, I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to come and do this show live because I've got a kiddo in there sleeping, and I've got another kiddo on the way to summer school. And is this time really conducive to YouTube? Like right now, we don't have very many viewers, and I know people are going to watch this later. My last live did really well. Uh, so d- I do we, you know, uh, I forgot where I was going with this. See, that happens in real time here. Like ADHD, it's probably because I'm too much screen time. To be honest with you, I'm overstimulated. I have nonstop entertainment options all the time on screens, like on my phone here. I've got all kinds of things on my phone here that we can I can do YouTube. I can watch, movies, sports. There's social media apps, and there's all kinds of things that I can do just from my phone. Now you take video game systems, you take televisions, like I was saying earlier, you go to the grocery store, there is screens everywhere at the grocery store. You go to the airport, there's screens everywhere at the airport. No matter where you go, there are screens everywhere. And one other, the thing I wanted to go over just now is adult sensory overload. That's right. And so, what are the over symptoms of sensory overload in adults? Difficulty focusing due to competing sensory input. That's a big one. So you've got too many things going on. How many of you have this happen to you? You got too many things going on. You have a sound over here, a sound over here, a screen right in front of you that's got sound coming out of it, and somebody's trying to talk to you. What happens? For me, I get angry. I get irritated. I sometimes I'm like, "What do you want?" And it's not because I'm angry at them, it's because I've got too much stuff going into my brain all at one time, and I can't sort it out. So, lots of times when I'm overstimulated, it sounds like a bunch of it sounds like a bunch of noise, just noise everywhere, and it makes me crazy. It really does. It drives me nuts. Extreme irritability is also another symptom of sensory overload in adults. Restlessness and discomfort. And I'm actually getting this from, let's see, healthline.com. So, urge to cover your ears or shield your eyes from sensory input. Now, I don't have that issue, but I know a lot of adults that do. Um, I know adults who rock back and forth when they become overstimulated. Stress, fear, or anxiety about your surroundings. That happens a lot to me. Higher levels than usual of sensitivity to textures, fabrics, clothing tags, or other things that may rub against the skin. You know, I have noticed that issue with myself as well, and I didn't know. I didn't know that that could be a symptom of sensory overload. But I do know I get overloaded all the time, which is why I looked this up, because I know what happens to me when I get overloaded. I have that sensory overload. And I have the presence of mind to be able to tell the people around me that it's happening as it's happening. And occasionally I will not do that and, lash out. As they say in the Disney movie, lash out irrationally. But sometimes that does happen. But most of the time, I'm pretty good at letting people know what's happening. Hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Can you stop talking to me for a few minutes? Let me gather my thoughts. Or hold that thought, please. Let me shut off these things so I can hear you and better understand you. And those things, like my 14-year-old often interrupts my my screen time, for a lack of a better term. As I'm watching a podcast or listening to something, he'll come in and he'll just start talking. And so I will want to pause whatever I've got going on if it's making noise so I can understand him. And so what I've been doing is telling him, "Hey, instead of just going right into talking, can you get my attention first before you start talking, because every time I'm finding myself having to ask you to repeat yourself so I can understand you because I'm not paying attention because of the screen, you know? So sensory overload happens in adults too. And one of the things that really shows for me is irritability. Um, and for my wife too. My wife deals with sensory overload as well, and she's not as she's not as aware as aware that it's happening as I am. And maybe she is and just not verbalizing it. That's just now occurring to me in real time, sitting here with you folks. Um, but maybe she is, but just can't. Feels like she can't say anything, and because we're all doing our own things, and she doesn't want to interrupt that or whatever. Maybe the case. I'm not sure, but at the end of the day, I think that we would be better served putting our phones down. I think we'd be better served shutting the television off. Um, Go outside, touch some grass. I can't remember who came up with that or who I heard that from. I think it may have been Ben Shapiro. Go outside and touch some grass. That's what we need to do. And so I was supposed to start this whole thing. I've talked to the podcast about it. I've talked to you guys about it before. I'm supposed to this summer start taking the children on more trips, camping. We haven't went camping yet. I'm still working on the tent and stuff like that. I borrowed a tent and we can go camping, but it's one of those tents that's really not that great to use during the summertime because it's got no breathability. So I'm kind of concerned about that. But I really want to teach the kids how to cook outside using open flame, open fire. I think that'd be kind of neat, and not only kind of neat, but it'll help them develop later on in life. But basically, I wanted to get with you guys and discuss this because I've had a lot of things over the last couple weeks happen that have really brought screen time to the forefront for me. And one of those things is watching people not being able to talk to other people out in public. When you go to the gas station, you see people all over the place are really quiet when they talk, um, or they won't look at you directly in the eye. There's a lot of that stuff going on. I see a lot of people can't order food, and specifically my children. So, I mean, it's happening more often than we like it to happen, that the social interactions are suffering from screen time, I believe. I can't prove that. I don't know that for sure. I'm not a doctor, not a psychologist or anything like that. I'm not even educated. But I have noticed over the years that our social lives have been affected by all these screens. Now, what are we going to do about this? Are we going to keep letting our screens run our lives? I certainly am not. I'm taking the steps today to reduce screen time for myself, for my children, and I wanted to share these thoughts and ideas with you guys and see what you guys thought and maybe kind of inspire some people to do the same thing with their children. I know Will's here hanging out with me. Will Jones, he's just started his uh not his trek, I guess, of for a lack of a better word, of running marathons, getting out, exercising, hanging out with his family. He's getting his kids out there and doing the doing all those things, doing all the activities, getting them together with other family members, with other friends. The social interaction is very important for early development. We don't understand how important that stuff is, that social interaction is to early development until it's too late. We don't if we have it, that's one thing, but if we don't have that social interaction, for a lack of a better term, it leads to really weird people, right? Uh, really weird adults who can't talk to each other. Uh, Big race in Iowa tomorrow. Wait, hey, good luck, Will. I wish you good luck in that race tomorrow. I hope is this the one that you've dedicated to your friend? Um, hey, that's pretty exciting news. A big race tomorrow for Will. And I was just talking about Will. He is, like I said, he's focusing on his mental health and physical health through marathon running. It was we've also got an episode with Will. I don't remember. It's like episode 38, 39, something like that. All right. Grape James. All right. So like I was saying, Will is making those active steps to take the screens out of his and his children's lives. And it's not because the screens aren't good. I mean, obviously we all think that entertainment is good, right? But entertainment can also be found in the form of social interaction with real people outside doing real shit. You know, you want to like I want to go out and just hang out outside. I don't really even have to be doing anything. Just get out and away from the screens is preferable. And I talk all the time. I'm burnout. Part of that is because I'm on my phone all the time. I'm answering emails. I'm texting. Like I text a million people a day. Like, and I receive texts and I get before the end of the month, I have like 10,000 text messages. That's ridiculous. You know, it is what it is though. I love talking to people. I love interacting with people. And if they're not right here in front of me, I'll interact with them on a screen. Like I love the ability to have Zoom as well because I've gotten up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning to do a Zoom call with somebody halfway across the world. I think that is so cool. Um, but as adults, we kind of need to take these steps for ourselves as well. Social interactions are suffering because we're always in our phones, we're always on our computers. We kind of just need to knock that off, if not for the health of ourselves, but for the health of future generations coming up. We want them to be able to talk to each other. Like I said earlier, we want them to be able to talk to the plumbing guy. We want them to be able to talk to the electrician. Hey, if the roof blows off, we need them to be able to talk to the roofers, right? Building a house, buying a house. Hell, my adult son was going to move out on his own, and I was extremely worried. I was like, well, you know, you don't barely know how to operate life. What's going to happen? I was very worried about that because he's very adamant on doing everything his own. And props to him. He's doing a great job, by the way, of keeping his sanity together out there on his own. But it would have been more helpful had he known how to do these things before he left. And it would have been much easier to be able to teach him without so much screen time. And if we stop managing our kids with screens, I think that would be beneficial to being able to help them talk to each other, help them get outside. Like, in worst case scenario, upset them, piss them off, kick them out. Kick them out. Hey, go outside, go play with friends. Now, you can't really do that with the older kids. What are you going to tell your 17-year-old? Hey, go play. It's not going to work out too well. But you can most certainly tell your 10-year-old, 11-year-old, go outside, go touch some grass. Like my 5-year-old, one of his favorite pastimes is jumping in mud puddles. If you've never let your kids jump in mud puddles, let them do it. Like if you got young kids, go out and splash around in mud puddles with your kids. It's great fun. Um, Go out and play in the rain. Summertime is a magical time. How many of you guys remember what it was like going to school all year long and it sucked? Like you had to get up and go in the winter time when it was cold and dark, and you get out of school and it's cold and dark still, and then you're just like, what happened to my day? And bottom line is we all crave summertime, right? We need to get out of the house. We enjoyed summertime as kids. We all went to school. We all had summertime vacations, summer breaks. Now, it seemed like when I was a kid, summer breaks from school were a lot longer than they are now, but we've got a pretty good sized break this year from school. And of course, our finances are not doing too good. The whole country's having financial issues right now, keeping up with the payments, keeping up with inflation, keeping up with groceries, that stuff. The whole world, or the whole United States rather, I don't know about the world, is having, financial difficulties. But we don't have to have money to go outside. I'm pretty sure outside is free of charge. I'm not 100%. Yeah, I'm 100% on that. Outside is free. We can go outside as much and as often as we want to. And I think we should. Starting, today, let's go outside more. Let's get our kids more involved in like a good activity that doesn't is if you don't like hot weather in the summertime and you want to be inside for an activity, bowling. Go bowling. That's a great one. Now, in the city that we live in, I looked up some information the other day because I was going to tell you guys about this. Go like bowling. Uh, my wife says she's outside right now and it's beautiful. I don't know if it's supposed to be hot today or not, but I hope it stays beautiful because it's been hot. It was hot yesterday. But I forgot where I was going with that. But anyway, bowling, that's right. I was talking about bowling. I was looking up information about bowling and I couldn't I couldn't find much bowling information. I could find when they're doing some big events and stuff, but I couldn't find prices, and the prices that I did find is of like 15 bucks for an hour's worth of bowling at a cosmic bowling event, which when I thought about it, it wasn't much money until you think about how many of us are going. And it was $15. I think it was 14.95 per person for an hour, which for four of us, 60 bucks to go bowling. And I can't really afford that. Not right now. Maybe in a couple weeks into the summertime. But like when you go bowling, you don't want to just go bowling. You also, you want to grab a snack and a drink and everything. You want the kids to enjoy themselves. So by the time that you've done all that, and I'm just now in real time realizing how much it would really cost my family to go bowling, it's depressing. I remember back when it was like $6 for an hour of bowling, and that included shoe rental. God, I'm dating myself there. But anyway, uh, so I got comments rolling in now. One of them was really fun. So my wife said, "Go look at some rocks. Our kids love looking and collecting rocks." Well, if that doesn't sound like one of the most boring things to do, but I do like rocks. Just picking up the little pretty ones and just kind of looking at them and enjoying them. That's pretty fun. But as as I'm sitting here talking to you guys, talking about how much it would cost to go bowling, and you just kind of think about how many activities out there really cost so much. But you don't have to go bowling. That's the good part about it. We can go hang out at the mall and just kind of window shop, or we can go um, we can go on nature hikes. That's one thing that I wanted to do with my 5-year-old. I wanted to get him out and do nature hikes so I can show him, like maple leaf. Look, here's a maple leaf. Teach him how to identify different things and also teach myself as well. Like I don't know anything either. But finding berries. I don't know what the hell berries to eat. We might be able to teach the kids how to forage some food, you know? Will says his daughters love to collect rocks too. I think it's one of those things that kids are attracted to, shiny things. And so we've got a bunch of rocks outside our house, right outside the door. And inevitably every day, my 5-year-old will bring in at least two, and I'll have to take them back outside. But we what we would like to do, and I've thought about like how to kind of prepare for this. I don't have any nature books here, but we're going to go to the library. Where we live, there's a lot of libraries, and that's libraries are free to go hang out in. They often have summertime programs for children. And so go check out your local library. Go to your local library or call them and see what kind of things they offer. One of the city libraries that we have close to us has a movie theater in it. Like, I didn't know that until I actually physically went to the library. And as I was at the library hanging out, I looked over and I was like, is that a movie theater? And I'll be hell, go to hell. It was. It was a movie theater. So one of our libraries here in town, that where we live, has a movie theater. What is your guys's what does your libraries have? Um like I said, I know there's lots of libraries that have summertime programs for the kids. Where we live, oftentimes at the movie theater, that there's also during the day, there's cheap movies at the movie theater where we live. I don't know what it's like where you guys live, but there's cheap movies at the movie theater. They're like old movies that for kids, and it just gives the kids something to do, get them out of the house. I know it's a screen, but it's not really. You're getting out of the house, and like, I want to take my 5-year-old to see Inside Out 2. Now, if we go and watch Inside Out 2 and that is like literally the only thing that we do with a screen all day, that's going to be good enough. That's a couple hours, right? Nobody needs a screen more than a couple hours a day, but we all do it, and I'm on a quest to reduce screen time for myself and for my kids. And I'm like I said, I'm going to keep checking in with you guys and let you know how it's going. And by the end of the summertime, we'll see where we're at. We'll see how the kids enjoyed it. We'll see how another thing that I got to bring up before I get up here off here, because I wanted to think about, or I wanted to talk about it earlier, and I want to bring it up before I forget. Is my 5-year-old is starting to regress a little bit, and I'm worried about that. He's not been in school now for 2 weeks. Summer's been here for 2 weeks for him, summer break, and he's starting to regress a little bit. I'm really worried about that because I don't have the skills or knowledge to teach him what he needs to know. I don't have the patience to really guide him like his teachers were at school. And it worries me to think about that. So that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to cut down screen time, is I've noticed my 5-year-old is regressing, and I can't have that. I just consciously, I feel guilty all the time when I'm like, "Hey, go watch your screen," or "Go check out your tablet." Um, just leave me alone, stuff like that. It really does make me feel guilty. So, in I'm gonna end the stream today for now. We've been over a lot of stuff about the screen time and things that we can do to limit that screen time. Particularly, if you're at home and the weather's crappy outside, grab you some grab you a deck of Uno cards. You know, do to play some board games. Do something with your kids and enjoy your time with them, because they're not kids for very long. None of us are. And so, in closing, uh, Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for joining us, guys. I got a couple viewers here and some comments. I really think I might change the time up a little bit on the live. I had to get up at I asked my wife to get me up at 4:30 this morning. So I'm tired. But in closing, I'm going to come back in a couple weeks and give an update on this show, um, on this live show, and let you guys know how it's going. And if it goes exceptionally terrible, I might give you an update next week. But I got some cool shows planned out. I got an interview scheduled for later today. I got 2 interviews scheduled next week. Um, I don't want to tell anybody about those because recently I've had some issues getting not not keeping the interview set up. It's just coming up with a time that we can get together and make it happen. But thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I'll see you in a couple days. Bye.